Summer and I will be presenting today about your personal narrative. This is about preparing for interviews, and instead of focusing on how can you practice for every single question that's out there, because there are a lot of questions out there, this is more about learning about who you are and what experiences you've had and how you can tell that story when those questions come up. I will be sharing my screen in this mode because I'm going to be switching in and out of presenting this and presenting other screens. So if this bothers you, it's not because I don't know how, it's because I'm going to be doing other stuff. We are going to be talking about how to frame your story, how to use the ready sheet, which I will be showing you, how to use the ODOT attributes, how to use the STAR method, using AI to practice, how to put your best foot forward, and how to access these resources. The first thing we will address is how to frame your story. So we're going to be using a tool from the employment department. So this is another state department. You might be thinking to yourself, like, why are we using ODOT resources? We're clearly not applying for ODOT jobs, but frankly, we have access to ODOT resources right now. So those are the resources we're going to use. But much like ODOT is part of the state, the employment department is also part of the state. Many of these things are similar in that they're set up with these really effective structures already in place. So the first thing we're going to go to here is this qualityinfo.org, and we're going to be looking at how the job that you currently do is set up. I'm going to pass it off to Summer at this point, and Summer is going to walk us through how that works looking at the job you currently have.
Yeah, so if you go to follow that link, qualityinfo.org, and up at the tools, there's this occupation and wage information. And we're going to use highway maintenance as our example for this. And so right now, this is just showing Oregon occupations, like the wage, employment, job openings, and this isn't for specific highway maintenance yet. So when you put in your occupation profile and hit enter, it pulls up all of this information that is pulled directly from employers that have jobs or that employ people here in the state of Oregon. So this is very specific to our state and not any out-of-state work. And all of these are expandable and just give you general workforce information for this specific occupation that it's listing here. And so it shows you your median hours, or your median wage, how many job openings, if there's growth, which is a good thing you want to look for if you want to stay in a career that's growing, or if you're looking to change careers, you want to join a career that's growing. And from here, you can find job openings from other sites. So it pulls from things like Indeed, occasionally LinkedIn. Job openings with the employment department is what's listed on iMatch Skills. And then just, like I said, a bunch of information that you would need to know specific for this occupation. And where this comes in when you're telling your story and how this can be a helpful tool is this shows you the knowledge, skills, and abilities. And this kind of touches on some of the conversations we had with our LinkedIn training as well. And so it's just a really good resource if you need a starting point to kind of remind yourself what are the common terms used for this specific job that you've been doing for a really long time that just feels second nature to yourself. These are the common knowledge, skills, and abilities used in these job listings. So as you're looking for work, if you're wanting to continue on as highway maintenance, then you would want to use these terms in your resume and cover letter, your LinkedIn profile, however you're presenting yourself. And whatever platform you're doing that in, these are the skills that you could use as your starting point, as a reminder of what it is that you do. And so you use equipment or systems, you're watching gauges and dials, you're using your arms and legs together, you're lifting, pushing, pulling, you direct vehicle traffic, and you know when your own job best, so you'll know what you do. But this is a really good starting point at helping you tell your story and how you want to tell it. It's also really great because, again, you can look for work. It shows you your knowledge, skills, and abilities. I have always loved it for this wage range information. I think knowledge is power, especially when it comes to our jobs. We don't have, when we apply for state jobs, because of our steps, we don't have a lot of wiggle room of being able to negotiate a higher rate, but you can in the private sector. So this could be a really great way to show if you're in a specific area rather than Oregon as a whole, and you've been doing highway maintenance, you know, in Lane County for 30 years, you would be in the higher end of the percentile than somebody who's starting out initially. So this can just be a really good base way to look at what your wage should be, could be, whether in your current job or a job you're looking for if you're wanting to change careers. If you're looking at this and you're thinking, well, I do highway maintenance, but I'm not considered a highway maintenance worker, but it's really similar. Or I do highway maintenance work and I want to do something similar, but not the same. Then there's these related occupations that show you similar jobs that have different job titles, but they're similar in that they share a lot of the knowledge, skills, and abilities, educational requirements, and often wage range. And so these can just be another great way to kind of get started in how you want to tell your story, how you want to, maybe you have a new story you want to tell. So I think this is an excellent tool. I cannot talk it up enough as a way to get started in understanding the work you've been doing, how you tell that story, continuing to look for that other work, advocating for yourself so you're getting paid appropriately based on what your experience is. If you know, leave state service, there's a lot that you can search for on this site. So that's a lot of information. I'll pause right here. Are there any questions?
We think about this as a process, which is how my brain works. We have looked at the job that we're doing at ODOT, and we know our knowledge, our skills, our abilities, all of the things we've been doing. And now we're going to look for a job. So Summer just took us through our occupation and wage information. These are the things we've been doing. In that occupation and wage information, there were available jobs that were posted both with the employment department and outside of it. There's also, under tools, find a job. So here in Job Finder, find a job, we can search maintenance. We're using maintenance as an example. You can put whatever word is appropriate for you. As I look through here under maintenance, I can see which of these jobs kind of stand out to me as something that looks interesting. You know, as you've been looking for jobs this whole time, there's so many jobs that will pop out to you. I know I found a job where it has University Maintenance Specialist. Here, I already have it. Perfect. University Maintenance Specialist is the job that I found on that list. This stood out to me because I love being on a university campus. As I was reading this job description, I can see that this position is responsible for the care, maintenance, and renovation of all intercollegiate athletic fields and the grounds of the university campus. You will also assist with fields and grounds maintenance on the main campus, collaborate with various departments to ensure optimal field conditions for both varsity and intramural sports. I'm already like so excited right now. So as I'm looking through here, I want to think about what skills do I have doing the things that I'm currently doing right now that could translate into this other job. As I'm looking through, there's a lot of words on this page. I don't necessarily need to look at all of the words. I'm really looking for keywords like develop and collaborate, purchase, maintain, and manage. Manage appears again. Monitor appears twice. Here's collaborate again. I can see collaborate again, manage, supervise. Are you seeing the pattern as we're looking through? It then lists for me the essential skills it wants to have for this job. Superior attention to detail, strong customer service, common sense understanding to carry out the job. So the next thing I want to do is use my ready sheet. As I'm looking at the ready sheet, the first thing I'm going to put at the top is the title of the job. This title of the job is University Maintenance Specialist. That's what's going to make it make sense to me. the technical title of the job could be something else. Make it make sense to you. I usually make this a link to that position or to that company, wherever I'm applying to. The next thing down from there is why. This is your personal why. Why do I want to do this job? Why would I want to go from doing highway maintenance to doing maintenance at a university? For me, that might be because I have coached Little League for years during my off hours. This is something that I'm passionate about. I am from the South, where college football is the greatest thing that's ever happened. So it would be amazing for me to be able to work at a university. I would love that. So that's something that I can put here that is an example about me as a person, a personal why, and a passion thing for me. That would be a great thing for them to know about me and would help me answer questions that will come up. This sheet is helping us understand more about ourselves and helping us write our story. This is how we frame our story. Now that we've seen the ready sheet, we know that we need to add attributes to the ready sheet. If you are one of the, according to the poll, 68% of the people on this call that have never seen the attributes, get ready. Because this is going to be awesome. So these are the attributes. The attributes checklist just has the list of the attributes plus their descriptions. They literally define what this word means. If to me, assertive actually meant aggressive, I could learn that assertive really means this. So the description helps us to understand better what this word is really trying to say. I can look through this list and know, my gosh, here's collaborative. I saw collaborate on that job description 3 or 4 times. So I could guess that collaborate is probably an attribute that could apply to that job description. I'm definitely guessing, but it's probably a pretty good guess. Something I don't have to guess about, I'm going to show you. So collaborate, collaborate, collaborate. Something I don't have to guess about is customer service and attention to detail. So if I look at the attributes, I can see detail-oriented and service-oriented. Service-oriented. We are looking at the attributes. If you want to print off the attribute checklist, if you're a printer person, you can print them off. You can check the boxes. There's even on the last page where you can put them in order of how you think they most apply to the one that you're looking at. I typically don't do that, but you could. The resource is there. Note, the reviewed date on this is 2015. The reason that I'm showing it to you now is because I think this is a great tool. It works well for me. Obviously, you do not have to use it. We have chosen our attributes. We are going to put them into our ready sheet. Our ready sheet has areas not only for attributes for the position, but attributes for you personally. Things that are important to me personally would be things like being a team player. You could see where team player might go along with collaborative. We have room here for 2. You can add more. I was telling Summer as we were getting ready for this, I have a ready sheet that I collect different attributes that I have used for different ready sheets, and it just gets longer and longer and longer. And so then when I have a new position I'm getting ready for, I can look through that ready sheet and just pull out the attributes that I've already gotten ready and use that one. So this can be as long as you need it to be. It just currently has 2 personal and 3 position attributes. You can have just copy and paste as many as you would like.
And it's great to kind of keep a running list of that, kind of like you would with a CV, because you might not remember that you did do that trait a lot in that prior role that you haven't had in years. And when you come back up on these, when you're back in the job search, or if you're just reviewing your information, it can be helpful to see that and say, oh, I have done that. I do have that experience. I do have a story to tell that's relevant to this role, just because it's not top of mind if you keep it running like Tana does.
Good add. All right, we've put our attributes in. We have listed detail-oriented. I like to put the description next to it because I am detail-oriented, and that helps me know exactly what am I talking about with this. The next thing we do is go to the list. Go to the list of questions. The 2016 list, I believe, is the superior list, and that's why I included it. You can see that in the table of contents, the attributes are listed alphabetically with their description. We're going to use collaborative. If you click on collaborative, it scrolls down to collaborative. It tells you the suggested question, and then what are they looking for in the answer. So the idea in this list of questions is every single one of these example questions means collaborative. So when you walk into an interview and you get your 15 minutes before with a question, you can read that question and go, I wonder what they're looking for. Are they looking for detail-oriented? Are they looking for collaborative? Are they looking for team player? What story are they trying to get out of me? What's the point of this question? And so instead of answering the question specifically, you're looking for what attribute are they trying to get to? And then you have that example for that attribute that you've been studying for your ready sheet. So this is what's going to take you from where can I get more lists of questions? Where can I practice more questions? How many questions can I practice over and over again? That kind of takes you away from that and gets you more into that idea of, I know my story. I can answer any question because I know my story. This is the first time I used this in an interview. I sat down and read the questions, and I went from feeling overwhelmed at what do you technically mean here? And you said and instead of or, and the question I practiced said or, and now this says and I think that changes my answer. And I went from that, like very overthinking and what am I going to do with this, to stepping back and going, cool, I know what they're getting at. I know my example for this. I'm good. I don't have to overthink this question. I can just tell my story. Next up, we'll look at the 2025 question list, or 24 question list. This is not in alphabetical order. It's in I see you order. So you can look through here and find collaborative at the bottom here. So when you find the attribute that you're looking for, you can click it and it will scroll down to it. And there are significantly less questions, but there are questions and what they're looking for. So the same kind of setup of here's a question and here's an example of what we're trying to find. So you do have access to both of these resources. Maybe the I see you really speaks to you, and that's amazing. And that's why both of these resources are here. My very waffle-shaped brain cannot do this. So I'm really happy for you if this works. But we do have the questions and what we're looking for. Once you think of your example story, For collaborative, it's time to use our next step, which is the STAR method. So the STAR method is not something that only ODOT uses, but it is something that ODOT has made a training out of. And the training is super easy to use. It explains everything really succinctly, and you definitely will have a better understanding. It even has a way for you to practice inside the training. Fantastic training that ODOT HR made really great. So that's linked in here. It's also linked on the SharePoint page. Basically, because you can take the training, the STAR method is helping you be able to tell your story without getting lost. Because it happened to you, you know all of the parts of it, but the person you're telling the story to doesn't know any of the parts. So this is helping you kind of frame out your story with what was the situation, like what was happening, what was the task, what did you need to do? So these are basically like 1 or 2 sentence things. And then what action did you take? This is where you're really going to put the bulk of your information at. And then your resolution is another like maybe 1, maybe 2 sentences. And your resolution is going to want to be positive. So even a question that says, tell me when something went wrong, or tell me something bad, you're going to want to make that into a positive way. I cannot recommend the training highly enough. I definitely want you to do that. But the thing that I think will probably take you the most time is thinking about different situations from your experience that work with each of these attributes. So maybe you're sitting there going, collaborative. I know I collaborate. I work with people all the time, but I can't think of something like, I can't think of a time like collaborate. I can't think of a time I collaborate. Maybe it doesn't like come to your brain. But I can think of like Summer collaborates every day. Summer and her group literally have work sessions every day where they collaborate all day long, every day. So when I think of collaborative, I think of Summer immediately and go, oh, well, yeah, she just like collaborates all day long every day.
But even if I were to use that as my attribute, I can't just say, well, I collaborate all day. That's what I do. I talk with my coworkers every day and make sure we know what our assignments are, we know what's important, we know that we're on task and on time. But that's too big of a story, and it's not really telling the story of the work that I do and how I collaborate in my day-to-day work. And so I do collaborate, but when we're doing the STAR method, you're really wanting to come up with a really specific story of how that applies to you and your work. So the hiring manager can understand how you collaborate, and they can envision how you'll do that in the work that is going to be for you in this new role. So I can't say, I could say, but it wouldn't be effective in telling my story. I collaborate every day. I talk with my coworkers every day. We make sure we are doing the right tasks at the right time. But a better story to tell would be collaborating on a project that I helped do outreach on. And I had to reach out to a bunch of different disciplines to gather information to make sure I was doing outreach to the right people at the right time in the right place in the right language. And then, I worked together with all of those other project managers and disciplines, and we got the outreach material out. And so that's, I'm describing my task, I'm describing the action I took. We got all of the outreach materials out and we translated it after doing the research to know that we were translating it to the right necessary languages, how we're spending our budget appropriately, and how we're sending this information out and using our resources. And then the resolution, the end goal was that it was successful outreach. The project manager had minimal questions compared to other projects that didn't have that level of outreach. And ideally for us, our goal would be that there were less people driving through the work zone. People used alternate routes and kept our workers safe. So then I could incorporate that into my story as part of, having a safety awareness. So you start pulling in other attributes as you tell these stories. So one story can work for multiple attributes depending on what you focus on. So collaborate can seem big. A lot of these attributes you can think, well, I do that all day, every day. But you want to really narrow it down into a specific story or a couple of stories that show how you collaborate in tasks, because that's how that hiring manager wants to see what you can do.
Great job. Okay, so you've used the STAR method. You have all of your different attributes with stories in them. My advice to you is to have a different example story for each attribute. Summer is absolutely correct. One story could hit multiple different attributes. I would choose one for each. I would make them different. This will make it to where you have a broad spectrum of things that you can talk about.
Yeah.
I would also go back further in time. You can have multiple stories per attribute. So if you've had one position for 10 years and another position for 10 years, do at least one per position. So you can tell that story back in time because your experience extends longer than the position that you are in right now. And so you can show that progression over time of when I was like this, I did this. And when I moved to this position, I did it this way, and show that growth over time. You can use other tools as well, like AI. We linked several different AI tools in the SharePoint. ODOT just unlocked Copilot, and I have to say, I've been super happy with Copilot's ability to do anything. Copilot is an app, just like OneDrive. So you're able to access Copilot via the app launcher, the little waffle, and use that resource with all the rest of your Microsoft 365 things. You can put your STAR method in there. When you do your STAR method, you may put in, for me, I usually put 2 or 3 words in so that I remind myself of what the situation was. And then that kickstarts my brain to go, oh yeah, this was the situation. Got it. Nailed it. Cool. I've also been using this with the same stories for a long time. It may help you to write the stories out, write the full sentences out, write the full stories out, whatever works best for you so that you feel better about telling your story. That's the way that you should do it.
So I'm a big fan of using AI to help you in your work, specifically with brainstorming for this topic, brainstorming for your example stories. So this can be great. You can be as detailed or sparse with the information in AI as you build up in it. So you could put in a job listing and just have it help you identify what those skills are. So then you can write your story, come up with your story, do the STAR method and write it out. You could already have a story and your STAR method, but you have it in bullet points, and each bullet point seems like they're not connecting quite together, and you're not sure how to make your story totally cohesive. You could plug it into AI and ask it to make it, help you write a better story that you can then work on and memorize and be comfortable with. And obviously, because it's AI, make sure that it's true to your own experience. There's a ton of different resources for AI. Before talking about it, now that we have Workday training, I am incredibly impressed with the DAS Workday AI training. It is excellent. I've been following AI news for years. I consider myself pretty proficient, and I use it a lot in my personal life. I pay for ChatGPT in my personal life. I am very impressed with this training. It covers more than Copilot. It covers a ton of fun resources I've never even played with before I took this training. And again, I involve myself in this world quite a bit outside of work. It was really great. It was very thorough. It was very clear how to use it responsibly and safely. It is specific to how we use it at work as government employees. So it talks about how to do transcriptions and plain language, understanding policies better and stuff like that. So it's not specific to interviews, but I really want to encourage everybody to take the training if they want to use AI, both in the workplace and outside of it. And technically speaking, if we use any AI at work, we are required to take this training first. But it's not a waste of your time, I promise. It was really good, and it is applicable in the way they give you how to do prompting and steps to make your prompts more efficient. And a prompt in AI is the question you're asking it. The more information you give it and the more detailed you are in AI, the better results you get. And this training will just help you get better results, which is really what we want out of it. So I really, really encourage everybody to take that training. It is about the 2 full hours as it says on Workday, but block off the time, take the training. It was great. They give you a bunch of example prep in it too. But we do have Copilot for free as part of our agency now, which is very exciting. But ChatGPT is free as well. It's the most common one everybody talks about. The free version does have some limitations in how frequently you can upload files or kind of ask it questions, ask it to analyze stuff. So keep that in mind. Perplexity is just another chat similar to ChatGPT owned by a different company. If you sign up for Perplexity with your government email, you get Perplexity Pro for free for a year. You don't have to enter in a credit card, any information. It's just when you create an account and you use your .gov email, you automatically get the year of premium, meaning you don't have as many limits and stuff. So I think that's great. But again, Copilot is what we're being recommended to use specifically for work stuff. Whatever you use on your own time, though, is for yourself. So like we said, it's really good for brainstorming stories. It's really good for turning ideas into polished responses. So you could get as silly as, let me just type out a stream of consciousness and then help it funnel it down into something that is a little bit more coherent and makes sense and follows with what your job listing is looking for. I've even had success where I've put in my resume and have asked it to look at what I have on my resume for my skills and abilities as that's crafted, and then look at the job listing and ask it to show where my resume matches the job listing to make sure I'm using the right keywords. And sometimes it's said things where it's like, oh yeah, and then you've collaborated. And I said, well, I never said I collaborated. You know, I'm thinking to myself, I didn't say I collaborated. That's not on my skills. Why would it list that right there? And it can draw, it can see, well, you said you worked with these people and helped them with this, and you worked with these people and you helped them with this, and then you created a final product. That's collaboration. You just didn't use that word. So then it's a really great way I have found to even come across skills and abilities that I have. Those are real skills and abilities that I've done and achieved, but I wasn't using those words, so I didn't spot it. I had my own blind bias to my work because I'm the one who created my resume. And so it's been really helpful in kind of spotting some trends for words to use, or trends that I use the same word over and over, and I can kind of do a revision. So it kind of depends on your AI level of experience and how detailed you can get with it. It can help you with mock interviews, and because you can talk right into it. There's a lot of different ways that you can use AI to practice your story, including, does the STAR method work? You know, does the story make sense? How can we make the story shorter? And then you can kind of work with it. And the more you talk about your story and make it fit how you want it to fit and make it true to your own voice, the more you'll have it memorized too. And then the more confident you'll be when you are giving that. And so, as we said in that last bullet, AI is very helpful, but it is not a substitute for real practice. It can be great for mock interviews. I would still encourage you stand in front of a mirror and practice, or ask a friend. While we're still here and we have Teams, we can do mock interviews together. You can always reach out for that. But AI is a phenomenal tool that can help you practice that, help you figure out what those attributes are, help you, polish up your story and make sure it makes sense. And again, make sure that it's in your voice and not written like AI.
All right. So we've talked a lot about preparing your story. That's one part of preparing for the interview. I would hesitate to say that anything's more important than anything else, but I do think anecdotally, personally, if I feel confident to be able to go in and tell my story, to answer any question with the story I know is correct and makes sense about myself, everything else falls in place much easier. That being said, there are a lot of things to do to get ready for an interview, especially in the world that we're living in now, which is this video world. So keep in mind things like having your background not be distracting or overwhelming, making sure that you have clothes that aren't pajamas, those kind of things that and don't stand up. And we put in a reference here on the VidCruiter. I don't know if anyone's done the video interviews, but that can be a confusing system. So if you get one of those interviews on video, There are different tactics to use for recording your interview responses on there, and that can be intimidating. So even practicing those things yourself, recording yourself, there can be limitations that way. So
Robert, I hope to also never do a video interview, but my past experience is that they always start as video interviews before you even get the in-person interview, unfortunately. They're not my favorite either. And talking about lighting, Tina, you could get a ring light. And in the past, I've had a ring light just up in front of my laptop with a thumbtack. You can get little clip-on ring lights that can just go over your webcam. I have a large like crane light. It's a crafting light actually. And I have it over my desk to give me some lighting to counteract the window next to me. But you can just play around. Again, you can do a Teams call, mock interview, and just have your screen up and play around with the lighting. But ring lights are great, just regular lights, overhead lighting. It's just turning on your screen and practicing before, so know your format, and before you go into the interview, just making sure that your lighting looks appropriate. Yes, glasses are tricky. You'll just have a ring light in your glasses, and if somebody else in your panel also has glasses, I bet you will see a ring light and their glasses too. It is, honestly, I was just thinking today, Tana consistently doesn't have a ring light in her glasses, and I don't know how she does that because everybody else.
Because my ring light is right here. So
okay.
I always have a ring light on, and mine is like a peach colored one. I don't know, but it has like a, you know what? I'll just link to my ring light. It's an Amazon one, but it's got like a super adjustable neck thing, and I just tilt it at an angle so that it doesn't shine back. So
trial and error.
Yeah. Yeah. Thanks for noticing, Summer. And I think probably the most important thing that we are saying the whole time here is practice. So being able to practice your story, to tell the story over and over again, to get the words out of your mouth. So you're actually activating different neural pathways when you say things out loud than when you think them in your brain, than when you write them down, than when you type them. So practicing these things.